3 nights ago, I was studying for finals in my college dorm room when the building's Wi-Fi crashed. This happens occasionally in our older residence hall, which was built in the 1970s and sits on the edge of campus. With no internet to distract me, I figured I would turn in early. Meanwhile, my roommate Sarah was in the common area on the second floor, video chatting with someone she had recently matched with on a dating app. During their conversation, he apparently asked if her roommate was around. She told him no. She later clarified she meant I wasn't in the common area with her, not that I wasn't in the building at all. After her call ended, Sarah made some ramen in the kitchenette and came back to our shared room around midnight. We both have single beds in a cramped double, with my brother's hand-me-down furniture taking up most of the remaining space. Sometime between 2 and 2:30 a.m., I woke to tapping on our first floor window and a low voice calling Sarah's name.
Sarah.
Before I could react, Sarah grabbed my arm and mouthed, "Stay quiet." I literally just froze. Here's what made it even more terrifying. Our window faces a restricted courtyard area that students aren't supposed to access after dark. The person had clearly gone out of their way to find our specific window. Our old radiator clanks loudly whenever anyone shifts weight near it, so I remained perfectly still despite the stuffiness of the overheated room. The voice moved along the exterior wall. I heard him try our window latch, then moved to what sounded like the emergency exit door nearby. He rattled the handle several times before apparently giving up and leaving without another word. What disturbed me most was Sarah's response afterward. I was shaking and couldn't fall back asleep. Sarah, however, rolled over and fell asleep within minutes, breathing deeply as if nothing had happened. When I whispered asking what was going on, she brushed me off, saying it was probably just drunk students looking for their own room, even though he had called her name specifically. This morning, Sarah finally admitted the truth. It was the guy from the dating app. She said she plans to block him and maybe file a report with campus security if he shows up again. But our campus security is notoriously understaffed, and our building doesn't have cameras in the courtyard area. I'm honestly upset. Someone tracked down our dorm room in the middle of the night, and Sarah initially lied about knowing who it was instead of taking it seriously. I'm not sure how to handle this. Should I contact the RA myself, or go directly to campus police even though Sarah seems hesitant? I feel like this needs to be documented regardless of what she wants. This happened a few days ago during my morning shift, and it's been replaying in my mind constantly. I'm a 32-year-old nurse who works the early rotation at a downtown hospital. That Tuesday, I had arrived at 5:45 a.m. for my 6 o'clock shift. The sun hadn't come up yet, and the underground parking garage was nearly empty, except for a handful of overnight staff vehicles scattered across the lower levels. I should mention that I drive a bright yellow hatchback that's pretty noticeable. I'd been assigned a spot on level B3, which is the deepest level and typically deserted at that hour. After pulling in, I was gathering my lunch bag and work badge from the passenger seat when I noticed a dark SUV idling 3 spaces down with its engine running. The exhaust was visible in the cold air. I thought maybe someone was dropping off a colleague, so I didn't pay much attention initially. I spent maybe 2 minutes organizing my things, putting my phone in my scrubs pocket, checking that I had my stethoscope, the usual pre-shift routine. When I glanced up again, the SUV had moved. It was now directly behind my car, blocking me in. The driver stayed inside with the motor running. Something felt immediately wrong. The vehicle had tinted windows, so I couldn't see who was driving or if there were passengers. My instinct told me not to get out of my car. I pretended to be on my phone while watching my mirrors. After maybe 90 seconds, a white sedan came down the ramp and parked on the opposite side of the garage. A doctor I recognized from the cardiology department got out and headed toward the elevator bank. The moment he appeared, the SUV reversed quickly and drove up the exit ramp, tires squealing slightly on the painted concrete. I waited until the cardiologist was safely in the elevator before getting out myself. As I walked toward the elevators, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. There were fresh tire marks on the ground, showing the SUV had circled my car twice before positioning itself behind me. I hadn't noticed any of that movement while I was sitting inside, focused on my belongings. When I got to my floor, I immediately reported the incident to hospital security. They pulled the garage footage and found something disturbing. The same SUV had been cruising the parking levels for over 20 minutes before I arrived, driving slowly past each parked car as if surveying which vehicles were occupied and which were empty. Security also discovered that 2 other female staff members had reported similar encounters in that same garage over the previous month, both times early morning shifts, both times on the lowest levels where there's minimal foot traffic. The footage showed the SUV had no front license plate, and the rear plate was obscured with mud. Deliberately, the security chief said, "Now I park on street level in metered parking and pay the daily fee. It's worth the extra cost and the walk." Hospital administration has since increased security patrols in the garage and improved lighting, but I won't be returning to those lower levels anytime soon. I keep thinking about what would have happened if that cardiologist hadn't shown up exactly when he did. Would the driver have approached my car, followed me to the elevator? I don't want to know. The police filed a report, but said without clear identification of the vehicle or driver, there wasn't much they could pursue unless there was an actual crime committed. I'm grateful that the presence of another person, someone I'd never even spoken to before, was enough to make whoever was in that SUV decide I wasn't worth the risk. Stay aware out there, everyone. I'm sharing this because sometimes the hardest moments teach us the most about survival and human kindness. I was 22, working at a small community center, teaching art classes to kids. There was a volunteer coordinator, I think she was in her early 50s, who seemed friendly enough. We would chat during setup, talked about our favorite painters, shared complaints about supply budgets. One afternoon, she mentioned organizing a fundraiser gallery night at her studio space downtown. She said several local artists and volunteers were contributing work and asked if I'd like to show a few pieces. It sounded legitimate. She even showed me a group text thread about it. The night arrived. I showed up at the address with 3 small canvases. The building was older. It was an industrial loft conversion. When she answered the door, something felt immediately off. The space was set up like a living area, not a gallery. It didn't have any other artwork or other people. I asked where everyone was. She claimed they were running late due to traffic, and invited me inside to see where the art would be displayed. She was drinking wine, already on her 2nd or 3rd glass based on how she moved. We walked through the space. Then she opened a door to what looked like a small bedroom. She told me this could be my personal studio, that she had extra space for me to work whenever I wanted, and that she'd been thinking about this arrangement for weeks. My stomach twisted. I nervously suggested I should wait outside for the other guests. Back in the main room, she got closer, tried to touch my face, and also my hair. She started saying things about how I reminded her of her daughter, how she'd been watching me, how we had a connection. And then she grabbed my wrist. I pulled away hard enough that she stumbled backward into a chair. She looked up at me, expressing confusion and hurt, insisting she thought I understood what this was. She began recounting all the times I'd been friendly to her, Every normal professional interaction now twisted into evidence of something more. I felt sick. I told her I needed to get my phone from the car. She followed me to the door and grabbed my arm. She demanded I promise to return, threatening to call my supervisor and falsely claim I'd stolen supplies if I didn't come back. She reminded me pointedly that I needed that job. I walked 2 blocks before I completely broke down. I called my roommate, but she was 3 hours away visiting family. I sat on a bench, shaking, trying to figure out what to do. A woman walking her dog stopped and asked if I was alright. I couldn't speak at first. When I finally explained the situation, she didn't hesitate, telling me to show her where this had happened. We walked back. She knocked on the door, introduced herself as my aunt, and explained there was a family emergency requiring my immediate departure. She was so confident, so authoritative, that the coordinator simply nodded, apologized, and let it go. In the car, because the stranger insisted on driving me home, she told me she had daughters and that she'd want someone to do this for them if they were ever in trouble. I reported everything the next day. The coordinator was quietly removed from her position. I never saw my rescuer again. I didn't even get her full name. Sometimes I think about how differently that night could have ended, how one person's willingness to help a stranger changed everything. To the woman with the golden retriever on 5th Street, thank you. You saved me in more ways than you'll ever know. And to that coordinator, I hope you got the help you needed.